Welcome to the Denver Metro Association of Realtors Real Estate Mastery Sessions. I'm the CEO here at Nobu Hata, former realtor, former NAR guy, and what I'm super stoked to talk to you guys about today is marketing and business planning, something that is incredibly appropriate to this coming year. I think it's going to be a challenging one, and what I've got here is a collection of agents, coaches, and super big data nerds. To help you plan for your coming year. It's going to be an interesting one as we go forward. So really quickly though, what I'd love to do is get our chairman of the board, Mike Pantana, to say a few words about his thoughts on marketing business planning and introduce Helen from Chase. Mike, take it away.
Thank you, Nobu. It's good to see everybody. Thank you all for attending this webinar. I think I'm with Nobu on this. I think next year is going to be somewhat challenging. I think hopefully what we have learned this year through these trying times is to adapt and to do things a little bit differently than what we're used to doing them. I know that I learned early on how to sell a house without showing it, and I'm continuing the practices that I put in place at that time of enhancing my marketing with and spending the money on additional virtual tours, 3D Matterports, floor plans, aerial photos and video where it really is appropriate. And it really makes a difference. So moving forward for next year, I think we all need to take a look at how we're communicating with our clients. People miss seeing people face to face. So, video messaging instead of emails, you may want to consider. I'm looking at my budget for next year, and I'm going to be very, very conservative with my budget, and not only do an annual budget, but I'm going to do a quarterly budget so I can really kind of keep mobile with that budget depending on what's happening. So hopefully you all will make the right changes, make the right plans for 2021. And if you've never planned and budgeted for your business before, I would suggest now would be a good time to start doing that. And this should be a very, very good seminar for you all to learn a lot about how to do that, how to go about that, get some great ideas, because we've got some really heavy hitters on this webinar. So without further ado, I'd like to introduce you to Helen Randall. Helen is with Chase Bank, and Chase is DMAR's largest sponsor this year. And we really appreciate everything that you all do at Chase, Helen. So with that, I'll turn it over to you.
Well, thank you so much. And we are happy to sponsor. My name is Helen Randall. I'm a lending manager here at Chase in Colorado, and we work with DMAR, and you guys have just been completely great. So thank you so much. We appreciate you. And times have changed. 2020 and 2021 is a trying year. And so you have to change with it so you can be relevant, correct? So I want to kind of drop some tips for you guys. Buying a home is the largest financial investment that most people will make in a lifetime. And we all know that. But did you know 88% of the buyers that purchase a home use a real estate agent? And 87% of the buyers that finance their mortgage, they purchase a home. This says a tremendous amount about the partnership between a real estate agent and a mortgage professional. Realtors and lenders are strategic partners. Whether we believe it or not, we are. Here at Chase, we want to be a strategic partner for you. We have a loyalty of 60 million customers nationwide, and they see us as their trusted advisor. We would like to make you part of that equation for your customers. So I invite you to schedule some time to meet with me or with Kendi Rurock so we can help you with that. We would love for you to work with our clients. So thank you very much. And we're going to turn it right over to Nobu. Back to you.
Thank you. Helen, Mike, thank you so much for your time. For you guys to take time out of your busy days to spend with us here is fantastic. We really appreciate it. So go out there, go sell the real estate, go finance some stuff, and we're good. And I'd like to kick it off right away to get to the nuts and bolts of this stuff. Beyond this whole like marketing business planning thing, you need to start thinking about as a realtor, who you're going to be marketing and planning to. One of the biggest and best reports that the National Association of Realtors puts out is the Home Buyer Seller Profile Report. One of the reports that I take my time out to read every year when it comes out. And the writer of that report is Jessica Lautz, Dr. Jessica Lautz, VP of Behavioral Insights at the National Association of Realtors. And she is going to talk about insights from the 2020 Home Buyer and Seller Profile. Jess, you ready?
Thank you. Yeah, I'm ready. Let's go. I am psyched to be with you guys chatting about my favorite report, HBS. It comes out every year. We've been doing it since 1981, which is kind of incredible to think about. This year, the report, in all honesty, is the biggest report we have ever put together on this. It's 185 pages long. I can't believe, Nobu, that you actually read the whole thing because it's massive. So I'm going to tell you some highlights of the report. This year, it is so big because we added 2 chapters to it. We wanted to understand what consumers are doing before COVID and then compare the behavior during COVID because we know it's different. And so we looked at buyers and we looked at sellers and we sliced and diced it that way. And so we added 2 new chapters. I will say the biggest thing to take away is that if you can't tune into this, the whole thing, or if you get bored and the kids start screaming in the background, the report's free. It's under Right Tools right now. You can log in as a member and actually download the report for free. So you can dig in at your leisure as time allows. So, all right, let's dig in. Let's look at some of the highlights. I have to say we are all in a pressure cooker situation. So this is why I've titled my presentation this, because truly, America is in a pressure cooker. Whether you have an aging adult relative who is now suddenly living with you, a young adult who is now suddenly back in the home or has boomeranged back into the home, never leaving, whether you're trying to homeschool kids, go about your business, try and do your work at the same time. Truly, we're in a pressure cooker. And with that, what we're seeing is that home sales are truly skyrocketing. Before I dig into HBS, I want to just kind of give the landscape because we have been doing so much research in this time period to try and understand the market, understand how it's evolving and how it's changing. When we look at consumers during COVID, what we have found, and we've been doing waves of research to really get a pulse on the market, 2/3 of consumers during COVID actually say that going to a listing presentation is a safe activity, something that they don't feel like they need national assurance or local assurance that they would be safe doing it. And the reason why is truly because of the measures that realtors took early on in the pandemic to make sure that this is a safe activity. Having masks and gloves available for people who are going through a listing presentation, making sure that windows and doors are open, having time between showings, and making sure that homes really are clean and are okay for both the sellers and the buyers to have this home on the market. And because of this, what we have seen is a massive rebound in housing. We have the highest home sales in 14 years. Truly, it is an unprecedented time. We have more than 100 months of year-over-year home price growth. And in all MSAs that we track, the year-over-year home price growth is grown. And that is truly an incredible market. We have the shortest list to contract time that we have ever recorded at 21 days. So truly, this is an unprecedented time. And 3 in 5 members are actually saying the market is hotter than normal. When we think about heading into Thanksgiving, looking at the holidays, this is an unprecedented time in the market right now. So let's talk about the consumers. Let's talk about who they are and how they have changed, because truly they have changed. One of the big changes that we're seeing is just who is in the market right now. We see that the people who are in the market have higher incomes. They are financially stable. They know that their job is going to be there tomorrow. And so they feel okay actually having this transaction and making this transaction happen. They're buying at higher price points. Everyone, I think, is tired of staring at the same 4 walls around them, but so many Americans really are reevaluating where they're living and understanding that they need a bigger home that's actually going to accommodate their needs, their family needs, a different family member who is suddenly in that home as well. We're seeing some really big changes in the search and how people are going about it. Of course, virtual tours, virtual listings, virtual open houses, things that will keep people safe to actually view that home. And people are really taking advantage of that. They're seeing fewer homes online. They're looking at a shorter period of time when we look at the weeks that they're looking for. And they're actually looking, when they look at the weeks that they're seeing homes before they actually make contact with a realtor, that time frame has shortened too. So they really are pulling the trigger on making that transaction happen very, very quickly. The big thing that I think is fascinating from this year's report, and we truly had no reason to actually collect data on this in the past. We had data, we never reported it. We didn't really have a reason to, is that only 3% of buyers last year actually put a contract on a home sight unseen. They had not physically seen the home. And this year it's grown to 5%. Now, again, that doesn't seem like a huge number, but if we think about 1 in 20 buyers actually doing that, I think it's a pretty fascinating trend. I think as we move forward with COVID, we're likely going to see that number go up as people do say, you know, I'm moving a farther distance away. I don't necessarily feel safe jumping on a plane, but I do actually trust my realtor. I know that they're honest. I know that they're going to show me the neighborhood. I understand the neighborhood from seeing it online, and I feel comfortable in making this happen. I think that's a really interesting trend. Another big trend that I took away from these COVID buyers is that their expected tenure is just 10 years. And that's still a very long period of time. It's probably longer than they're actually going to hold on to that home. But in comparison to pre-pandemic buyers, they actually are expecting to own that home for 15 years. I think there's a lot of pressure right now on buyers to find that perfect home for them, find it quickly, do it in a safe manner, and just say, you know, this may not be my forever home, but this is going to be the home that's going to work for me for about a decade. This is the future that I can see, and I could see myself living here. And I think that's what we're seeing right now in the buyers in the market. Buyers did have delays. Now, I have to say that this was a transition period. This is early in the pandemic. We looked at buyers who closed between April and about midsummer. So there was definitely a learning curve there. And so we watched much of the process that may have required wet signatures in the past, in-person types of transactions. And we saw them actually go virtual. We saw them go electronic signatures. And so as that transition happened, we did see some delays for buyers in that process. But it's not overwhelming. It's 14%, but it is definitely something that was a takeaway from this year's report too. All right. Jumping into some of the changes that we're seeing when we look at who's buying homes, I think this is really, really fascinating data. This year, we actually had a massive jump between those who actually purchased pre-pandemic to those who purchased during the pandemic in multi-generational buying. Now, multi-generational buying is always something that's been around. We've collected data on it for a number of years now, really trying to get the pulse. It's bounced around 11%, 12%. Not a massive jump, but this year it actually jumped to 15% for those who purchased April or later. 1 in 6 buyers purchased a multi-generational home. That is a pretty big difference. And the number one reason is actually because aging parents are now living with them. So maybe they were in a senior care center, maybe they were in a nursing home living independently, but now they're actually in a family member's home. That's a pretty big jump. I think there's some huge implications for housing here about whether that home will actually accommodate that aging adult relative. Does it have the safety precautions? Is it actually able to make sure that the guardrails are there, that the doorways are wide enough, that people can actually be there and be there safe? I don't know, but that's a big question mark. The other big change that we saw, and we've seen this in the data for a number of years now, is that there's a growing number of young adults who are living at home with family members. In fact, when we look just population-wise in the US, for 19 to 29-year-olds, 52% of them are living at home with family members. That is the greatest share since the Great Depression. There's a lot of young adults at home. Some of them are young professionals. Some of them have lost their jobs. Others are college students who are not physically on campus anymore. So we see them as a growing segment. And then we see buyers buying a home to actually able to accommodate these young adults in that home. The other big thing that we're seeing here is that people are relying on family members to pool their incomes to make sure that they're financially stable so that you can have multiple incomes who are going to contribute to that mortgage, the utility costs to buy that bigger single family home and make sure that there is a fallback plan if you need one. The other big thing, and I've been saying this for a pretty long period of time now, is we have a massive baby bust situation in the country. We have more than 35-year lows in birth rates. People are not having children because they can't financially support these children. And so what we have seen is that the home buyers today really mirror this baby bust situation. When we look back at the 1980s, 58% of home buyers had a child in the home. Today, it hit the lowest share at 33%. Again, massive implications to communities here, massive implications to these home buyers, to realtors working with these clients, because when we think about schools and we think about proximity of schools or the quality of schools, suddenly it's not going to matter to that home buyer who doesn't have a child in the home and who has no intention of having a child. That's really not going to be on their priority bucket list to make sure that they are close to that good school, because it's not a personal impact to them. There's also some big implications too on the size of home. Now, I would say traditionally they probably need a smaller home, maybe not if they need a home office or they need 2 home offices, but that certainly would have been a factor if we think about pre-COVID, pre-remote working. The other big change that we're seeing, and this really isn't a big change, but it is an acceleration of trends, is that we are seeing absolutely clearing of the shelters. And when we look at the data, what we see is that for unmarried couples, for single females, it's actually more important to them to be close to the good dog park, to have a home that accommodates their pets, than it actually is to be close to those schools. So again, big implications here of priorities of buyers, what's important to them, the location, but also a motivating factor to actually purchase that home in the first place when maybe they weren't actually in that buying sector and now they're tired of renting. All right, another big trend that we're seeing from this year's report is the change in household composition. So we have seen a drop in marriage rates in the country. Back in the 1960s, more than 70% of American adults were married, and today just half are married. So really big change in who's married and who's not. When we look at first-time home buyers, what we're seeing is a mirroring of this trend as well. So back in the 80s, more than 70% of first-time home buyers actually were married, and today it's just a little more than half. And we've seen that really tip down in recent years as we see the institution of marriage perhaps going by the wayside or happening later in life. On the flip side, what we're seeing is a rise in unmarried couples. We're seeing a small rebound in single females. They used to be a much higher share at 27%. This year, bouncing back up to 19%, seeing them come back into the market. If I had a prediction on this, the prediction that I would make is that roommates purchasing homes together would grow, and that unmarried couples will continue to grow. And the reason why I say that is that housing affordability is such a struggle right now that I think that people will find ways to pool their income, say, you know what, this may not be my forever home, this may not be my forever living situation, but I want to jump into home ownership. Interest rates are at these historic lows. Why are we renting? Let's go buy a home together. And so I think that we could see a rise in this. When we look at the data of during COVID buyers versus pre-COVID buyers, we see a rise in unmarried couples, and we see a rise in these roommates who are purchasing homes together. So I think we're already seeing pretty strong upticks in this, just not that multi-generational massive jump, but we are seeing jumps in this as well. All right, looking at the first-time home buyer share, this is pretty discouraging data. We really are not seeing first-time home buyers back in the market. They have actually dropped to a 33-year low. They're just 31% of the buying market right now. Really pretty steep drop. And when we see that 50%, that's that first-time home buyer tax credit in 2008 through 2010, different iterations of that tax credit. We saw that big push of first-time home buyers in the market. Since then, we really have not seen that historical share of 40% among primary residence buyers, just really facing affordability constraints, facing inventory constraints, and then also having student loan debt, which is one of those big hurdles that keeps them from being able to save for that down payment on a home. When we look at student loan debt and we see the numbers today, what we see is that for first-time home buyers and even for repeat buyers, the typical amount that they have is $30,000 as they go into the buying market. That is a lot of money, and that is definitely going to change the amount of home that they can buy. It's going to change probably the area that they can buy in as they do have this hurdle of student loan debt. Now, I have a big question mark here because I think that there is one of the first stimulus packages that happened during COVID. It brought student loan debt to a 0% interest rate. Really good if you have a job, if you could pay off that student loan debt, really tackle that principal of the debt. The other thing that happened is that student loan debt automatically went into forbearance. That if you have a job, you really should continue paying on that. But if you didn't have a job, this is a good way to pay down other debt. Now, the big question mark here is that President-elect Biden has some proposals about getting rid of student loan debt. I don't know what's going to happen at the end of the year. I don't know what's going to happen with student loan debt, but I will say it is one of the massive hurdles to homeownership. So this could be a good alleviation of debt. It's already been a good alleviation of debt in the last few months. All right. Some big seller changes that happened last year too. We absolutely see the urgency to want to sell is absolutely up among sellers who did sell during COVID. They were even willing to give incentives, especially when it comes to credits for remodeling and home warranties. We have to keep in mind that sellers today have been in their home for 10 years. They probably have some things that they need to fix up on their home to be able to sell it. But it's hard to find a remodeler. It's hard to find a contractor. People don't necessarily want extra people in their home. So I think what could be happening here is that people are just saying, we'll give this to the buyer's needs. We'll give this incentive. We'll make sure that we can sell this home in a timely fashion so that I can get out and find a bigger home for my family. But I know that there are some things that have to be done on this house. The other thing that we did see for sellers who were selling during COVID, and again, this was early in COVID, this was in April, May, June, July, we did see that some price concessions were being made for sellers. That said, they are selling at a higher price point. They have more equity in their homes. So they may be actually financially able to make these price concessions. The other big thing that we saw, similar on the buying side, sellers are they're using virtual tours. They're using them at extremely high levels. They're using these virtual tools to be able to market their home to get it under contract sooner. And the big thing, of course, is that everyone seems to want a bigger home right now. We really are seeing a lot of transactions happen in the suburbs, both on the buying side and the selling side, as people look for affordability, but they also look for space. All right, agent use. It's absolutely trusted. It's absolutely the number one way that people are finding homes today. When we look at the buyer side, we see that 88% are using agents. Near all-time highs, the idea of buying strictly through a builder's agent really at lows. And we do see that FSBO is also at lows. So really just not seeing people having FSBO transactions. When we look on the seller side, we see that 89% are selling with an agent. We actually collect some data points, and we want to understand, is this a full service agent who offers all the broad range of services to their clients? Or is this someone who is a limited broker and they're just going to list on the MLS? And really it's up to the seller to do any type of marketing. What we find is that as we've been collecting this data, it was the year that it was the highest share of sellers who actually wanted a seller that had a broad range of services. This is such an anxiety-ridden time as far as economics go, as our health and welfare goes, as our family situation. Everything is full of anxiety. And what we are seeing from sellers and from buyers is that they want someone that they can trust. They want someone who's honest. They want someone who will bring them through every aspect of that transaction and make that transaction happen quickly and seamlessly. Truly, this is what we're seeing in the data. And I've said it before, but really picking it up for those who are really having this transaction during COVID, they absolutely really want to be with someone who that they can trust and has a good reputation. Just 8% of sellers sold via FSBO, really near historic lows. It's bounced around 7-8% for the last few years now. We collected the data this year on iBuyers for the first time. Less than 1% selling via iBuyers, so not something that people are willing to embrace, take price concession on, and just not willing to have that sort of transaction right now. All right, so again, the report is free. Please do download it. It's under Right Tools right now. Absolutely, grab the report for free. We typically charge for it. We wanted to make this resource free this year because this is a changing environment. It's a great book for trends for sure. And follow us on social media. So thank you.
Awesome, Jess. Thank you so much. The report is awesome. And I think this year with the additional COVID information, it was even more compelling. We just today got a report from Lawrence, your boss, about the outlook for next year. It's going to be up, especially in new construction. There seems to be a lot, this COVID time seems to be accelerating a lot of the trends that we were already seeing out there. Things like the burbs, for example. What we're trying to figure out as real estate people, buyers, sellers, and whatnot, and realtors in the field, is this exodus to the burbs to other cities? Is that a short-term trend, medium-term trend, long-term trend? What do you think is going to happen with that particular trend?
Yeah, I think it depends on employers. I think for a lot of people, it could be a long-term trend. They're going to need more space, and a lot of employers, even as a vaccine comes, they're going to transition to remote work. And we've heard many big workplaces actually decide that already, that really it's the employee's choice, or we're shutting down our office altogether. And so as people are able to work from home, they're going to need the space to do so. You can't really do that in a tiny condo in a city center. And you can't take advantage of the amenities, certainly right now, that a city center provides, as museums are shut down, sporting events. So the idea of having more space is definitely there.
The impact on first-time home buyers. It was already getting pretty unaffordable for these folks now, inaccessible to these folks as it stands now, only gotten worse. What happens to these folks? How long is their runway to buy a home?
Yeah, first-time home buyers, it's definitely not a good point this year, for sure. One of the big things that's underlying the data that I saw is that they were less likely to rely on family help this year. Still relying on family help, but a third of first-time home buyers last year had down payment assistance from mom and dad. This year, it's dropped to a quarter. If you can't rely on that family help, it's so hard to enter home ownership, especially if you have that baggage of student loan debt around your neck too. It's near impossible in many areas.
Yeah, so the dream time to want to buy a home, you okay? The dream time to buy a home is going to get longer. For sellers, it's actually pretty shocking that buyers will buy that home, but it's going to take them less time to sell. That's an interesting stat, because you think that they're spend more, buy a bigger home. Is it a case of kind of the right home right now kind of effect because of the lack of inventory?
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, even if we look at pre-COVID data, if we look last year, I think one of the things that really speaks to the suburbs and the small town movement is that a quarter of younger millennials purchased in small towns last year before COVID was even a thought. If we think about how all of these trends get placed on young millennials, that they're city centers, that they're eating their avocado toast, all of these different types of trends, really what they're seeking is a single family home, and they're seeking an affordable single family home when you look at that small town growth. So I think that that's a big trend for them. And the other thing is that even if your family is not financially contributing to that transaction, the role of family has absolutely just been heightened under COVID. You want to be around your family, you want to be in your pod, you want to be close to them. And so I think that that's just a stronger growth to move to these small towns, to these secondary cities. Perhaps it's not where you're working, but it's where you want to live because that's where your family is.
Awesome. Jess, thank you so much. Good to see you. The amount of work I know you and your team put into this is a thankless job. If I can be the one to love on what you guys do, thank you so much for what you do for us and all realtors.
Thank you so much for having me.
Awesome. All right, next up, Jason Pantana. As Jason lights up his monitor, look at him. Look at that. Look how handsome he is. Here's the thing. Now you got an idea of who it is that you need to be marketing to and the criteria in which you should be considering your marketing plan. What I love for you to do, Jason, is talk about the guts of marketing. It's a subject that you and I talk about a lot. Jason Pantana is a treat. Jason, thank you for joining us. Jason, take it away.
All right, Nobu, thank you very much. Denver Realtors, thank you so much for the opportunity to talk to you today. This is going to move pretty fast. You're going to get all the slides. Everything's recorded if you want to watch it again and again, just to make sure you really absorb the content, or, hey, I like what he said here, but I do this differently. You're going to get all the slides and all the materials to make that your own. But I'm super thrilled to be with you today and talking to you during this really critical time in, I think, every realtor's career right now, which is a time to adapt, a time to innovate, a time to level up what you're doing. And I was listening to Jessica's presentation, and I always love listening to her. I've been a big fan for a long time. And I have the report open. I was pulling up my notes and looking at something just before I jump in. And I just want to show this one little section here that I highlighted that talks about like sellers. Sellers have increasingly relied more this year on technology, specifically digital marketing, to sell their properties. I think that trend should be applied not just to sellers, but also to agents in terms of positioning ourselves as the agent of choice in the marketplace. And I was struck by the biggest notable difference was the use of virtual tours, which is great. They've been around for a while. I remember I was actually at the launch when Matterport was looking for venture capital. I was there at Realogy while they made their appeal, and it won. They did really well. But there is, and we're going to go through a bit of it today, there is so much more opportunity in the landscape of digital marketing that I think now is the absolute perfect time to really double down on what works, what you don't know, getting the learning that you need to make sure you can invest in your business and take it in a much more digital direction. So with that being said, let me jump into my slides. Again, I'm Jason. I'm really happy to get to be with you today. I'd love to connect on social, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I am Jason Pantana. I got a weird last name, so I'm lucky that I get the vanity link and username for all my social handles. Check me out there. And if you have a question, just shoot me a note, a message. I want to help. I want to make sure that agents, I'm passionate about this, that agents in across the US, across Canada, all over the world, are getting what they need to really level up and innovate how they do business, how they serve customers better and more effectively, because I think that the tools are there and we'd be remiss if we didn't use them. Many of you guys may know Tom Ferry, as I put this slide up there. Tom Ferry is my boss. I'm a business coach with Tom Ferry and love what we get to do. For the last 7 years running, we've been ranked the #1 coaching company in all of the world, I believe, by the Swampole Power 200. And to me, here's what I like about that. Because our success is attached to agents having success in their own respective businesses. And so by their success, we have success. I like having, it's kind of like you get paid to sell people's property. In a sense, their success is your success on a percentage basis. Same kind of a thing here for us. And we're proud of it. And I also want you to know the stuff I'm talking about today, I'll give you a lot of examples of what our coaching clients are doing that works in their businesses. So this isn't made up stuff. This is stuff that we're actually seeing work in people's businesses. Think of it as a buffet today. Take what you like, ignore what you don't like. If you don't get everything we go through, that's perfectly fine. If it takes time to grow into it, that's fine too. Because as you think about your marketing plan in 2021, I can assure you, biting off more than you can chew is a great way for a marketing plan to have no benefit to you in your business. But if there's one thing you hear today that you're like, oh, I could do that, then do that one thing. If it's two, then do two things. But the point is, take what you want, and listen with the ear of, how can I innovate in 2021? As things are moving around right now, how can I don't want to make the wrong thing out of this, but how can I seize opportunities that exist even in times of hardship in my business? I think that has to be our mentality. How can I make my buyer life, my seller life, how can I help them with what I do? So let's jump into contact. If you're not connected with Tom on social, he's Tom Ferry across the board, YouTube, Twitter, Facebook, Instagram. Be sure to connect. He's always sharing really great super actionable, super strategic content for you to apply in your own businesses. All right, so let's jump into the content. On the screen, it says you're either an agent of choice or an agent of chance. And I was thinking about this. I put this on the slide and I was like, you know what? Real estate is and always has been and will continue being a relationship business. In other words, like, where do most agents get their business from? Well, most agents, and it was even in the report, most agents, it's still referral driven. That's a huge piece of it. Past clients, sphere of influence, contacts, the people you know. This is a high trust business. There's an expression that says business moves at the speed of trust. And in real estate, that could not be truer. And to Jessica's point earlier on, we find that right now seller confidence is high, buyer confidence is high in the provisions and measures agents all over the place, realtors, have put in place to make sure they're protecting not only the interest of their clients, but their physical well-being too. I guess my point right now is this is a trust game. This is a awareness game. This is I've got to be on the radar of my past clients, my sphere of influence, people who live inside of my target market area. I have to be on the radar, because if I haven't positioned myself as an agent of choice, meaning they trust me, they know me, they have confidence in my skill set and my abilities, there's a track record they can see to have a level of, oh, wow, Jason is going to take good care of me. If I'm not positioned as the agent of choice, I'm an agent of chance. And the odds never favor an agent of chance. So what I'm going to get into today is 6 things, 6 plays you can run that are really designed to position you as an agent of choice in your local marketplace. Some of it's going to be more innovative tech kind of stuff, but ultimately I want to really reinforce this point that this is a relationship business. And so everything here is designed to put you in front of people with the intent of saying, hi, my name is Jason. I'm a realtor and I want to be there for you. So keep that in mind, that you're either an agent of choice or an agent of chance. obviously we're going to pick the agent of choice, no doubt. All right, let's keep rolling. So let me explain how this chart is laid out. Again, you get all the slides. It's got 3 columns: channel, frequency, and strategy. I'm going to go through all 6. I kind of have it like faded out when we're not talking about it, just to make it easy to follow along. First one says channel, email. What does that mean? It means this is the channel. Email is the channel. It's the means by which I'm going to talk to my database, my people, my audience, right? People I know and don't know. So in this case, since it's email, it's going to be people who have given me permission to email them. That's who we're talking to. But a channel is just a means of establishing contact. It's a communication channel. Frequency is obviously how often are we going to do this thing? And then strategy is kind of that basic description of what is it I'm going to show you. Now I have an example in just a second I want to walk through as an example, but I want you to know that in the world of email marketing, and I'm not talking about Gmail or G Suite or Outlook or Yahoo. I'm not talking about like one-to-one email. I'm talking about email marketing. So tools like BombBomb, MailChimp, SendGrid, Drip, OmniSend, those types of tools are what I'm getting into. It's me putting out basically a newsletter, which I'll show an example of, a newsletter, and I'm calling for it once a week, because what we've noticed is in our ecosystem of clients, when we increase the number of emails we're sending out, good emails that our clients are actually putting effort into, not like canned junk. I'm not a big fan of canned content. At the end of the day, this is a relationship business. It's a trust business, and nothing says trust like, here's some generic stuff that I didn't write. I don't believe in canned content. I'm fine putting people around you to help accelerate what you're doing, because I understand it's a lot of work, but I believe in homemade content. But what we've seen is when agents increase from like a monthly email to a weekly email, their open rates go up, their engagement rates go up, the results go up. And we know that across all industries, email marketing has a 4,400% return on investment. So if I spend $1 and make 44. Now I'm talking about all industries, but let's just apply it to us ourselves for a moment. We're not sending enough emails. What kinds of emails? Emails like this. This is a single column newsletter. And the reason, in other words, it's a feed. And the reason I say single column is because a lot of like 90s and 2000s email templates have like the little left-hand or right-hand sidebar and all the different sections. I'm not into those. And the reason is because people are going to look at your email on their phone. And this is a single column device. I want to be able to scroll through it. Just like Heather Klontmaker, she's a realtor in West Michigan, and she sends this email out. She updates it every single week. This is sent through BombBomb. She has a graphic designer who built her a template, and it looks like this. It's beautiful, but it's section by section. Basically, all she's doing is repurposing her content, blogs, videos that she posts across social, the things that she's already producing and sharing with her following on social media, she is simply repurposing into an email. So I would say if you're not sending a weekly email or even a bi-weekly email or even a monthly email, start with whatever you can do, but you need to be sending more email. A newsletter, whatever. But again, homemade always tastes better than canned. Emails tend to perform better when you put your effort into those emails. If you use some service that you've never read their emails and it's generic, like when somebody gets an email like that, they're kind of like, hey, thanks for nothing, delete. And you're forming an impression. And really, I would argue, and this is maybe a little extreme, but I would argue on some level, you're losing trust with them. Homemade always tastes better than canned. First one up is an email. Second thing up is social media. So I'm going to go through all 6 of these things one by one. You can watch this again. I know I talk pretty darn fast. You can watch it again. You can use my slides. I want to talk about social media, and I've got up here a weekly schedule of content. So when I say social media, I mean Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. You could add YouTube to that also. If you're big on TikTok or Snapchat or whatever, Pinterest, add those too. Twitter, add that. That's your prerogative. But really the big 3 in my book, and I should include YouTube, sorry. The big 4 are Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, and YouTube in my book. And what we're calling for, and this is like a little algebra, I'm taking you back to 7th grade algebra, greater than or equal to 3 posts, how often? Per week. So what we're suggesting is that, like Pinky promised me, that you are going to post at least 3 pieces of content every week in 2021. That's the minimum viable for our plan. Now, ideally, you be posting content every day on social. I don't know that you need to post more than once a day. It depends upon the size of your following. If you have a massive following, you might need to give them more content to serve that. But for the average person, once a day is sufficient. But really, you can put breathing room in between posts. I want you to be committed in 2021 to producing at least 3 pieces of content a week that you can publish across social media. Some people are going to be like, should it be my Facebook profile, the personal one? Should it be my Facebook page, the business one? And my answer is yes. All the above, right? I want you to look at your content as I create my content in a laboratory, and then I decide where to put that content. It could be one post may be appropriate for your profile and your page, or you may decide, you know what, this is just for my profile. Like today, I did a post with my boys, my kids. I didn't put it on my business page. I put it on my Facebook profile and my Instagram and I didn't think it belonged on LinkedIn, but I used my own discretion to decide that. I don't want you to get hung up on which platform, which social media platform. I want you to get hung up on what content am I producing with a minimum of at least 3 posts a week. And then it says greater than or equal to 1 sponsored ad per week. And I'm going to come back to that in a little bit. So just keep that one in mind. Greater than or equal to 1 sponsored ad per week. What I mean is we're going to put some money behind it, and we're going to target our database and the people that we want to target to make sure they see it. I'll circle back to that. First things first, let's talk about posts versus stories. This is going to be quick and easy. On Instagram, your main feed consists of your posts. Just like on Facebook, your main feed that you scroll through consists of your posts. Stories are across the top horizontally. And again, on Facebook, horizontally across the top. Stories disappear every 24 hours. When you click open a story, for example, if I clicked on Tom Ferry there, it would go full bleed, full vertical format. It would take over the entire screen of my phone, and it automatically rotates, shuffles through people's stories. Your rule of thumb should be, like, notice I said posts, 3 posts a week. As far as stories go, you should really just always have at least a story going. That's pretty much your marching orders is never don't have a story up, and you're going to be good. You don't need to put a lot of thought to them. They're just kind of little nuggets and details and pieces of your day. Some of them could be more brand strategic, whatever, but just in general, always keep your stories going. I have lack of time, but I could explain how that helps your engagement. It conditions your followers to be more likely to see your posts in the future. There's a lot of algorithmic benefits on Instagram and Facebook to keep your stories going. But the mantra is 3 posts a week as a minimum. And the next question I get all the time is, well, what do I post? And the answer is, oh, I forgot to post this. YouTube. There, I added it. Relax. Posting once a week is sufficient on YouTube. Honestly, if your quality of content is really there, if it's super dialed in, you can get away with posting once a month on YouTube. A lot of people are looking at YouTube like it's a warehouse for their content. It is not. It's not. YouTube is a different animal than Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn. I've said before, like Facebook and Instagram, they burn the cheap gas. YouTube burns the premium gas. You don't need as much. It burns better. In other words, YouTube tends to want higher quality, longer lasting videos. So you can do fewer of them, but they got to be good because it's more of a search-based platform versus social feeds. Facebook and Instagram, they just want content. They're just hungry for more content. So give them as much as you possibly can. Again, 3 posts a day. Once a week's fine on YouTube, once every other week, once a month. Just be consistent on YouTube if that's part of your 2021 plan. And I would add this. I think it should be. If you're into video, and if you're not into video, get into video. But if you're into video, it should be. And the reason is because Jessica mentioned it. We're seeing people go to the burbs. We're seeing people move to be closer to family. They're relocating. And when relocation goes up, guess what else goes up? Search. Well, where do people search for information? Well, they search on Google, and they also search on the second biggest search engine on the planet, owned by Google, called YouTube. So are you placing videos that are designed to anticipate what people are searching for on YouTube? That's not really my presentation today, but I kind of feel like I should say that to you. Let's talk about what you post on social, Facebook, Instagram, LinkedIn, that kind of stuff. We teach a 3-hour workshop called Digital Domination. And we do this is like a whole long segment that I normally deliver, but just real quick, kind of a cheat sheet. You should have 3 buckets of content that you're producing: shows and series, deal data, and the vault. Shows and series are like your episodic recurring content. Maybe pick 1 a week. Tom Ferry said for a long time, every agent needs a once a week video show. It could be a talk about what's happening in the market. We have one we call these HGTV tours. In other words, agents will go tour properties, which frankly has been a bit more difficult in 2020 for obvious reasons, but they'll go tour properties that aren't necessarily even for sale. These are not listing videos. It's more like I'm talking to the camera as if it's a prospective buyer, because let's be honest, like people want to be entertained when they're on Facebook and Instagram. And I've seen a lot of agents who produce video content. They make like They almost rip off Food Network shows where they're touring restaurants and things like that, trying to get to know local businesses. And that's all fine and well. But if you want content that people just love to watch, I mean, I watch people watch HGTV all day long. I'm not saying that is what real estate is. I mean, I'm a licensed realtor. I don't actively sell. I get it. I know how it's different. But at the same time, touring properties, people would love for that kind of content to be shown on your feed more often. So I have coaching clients who are going into homes and they're talking about different types of kitchen renovations or just FYIs, giving some knowledge, sharing experience and information. And then what does it do? It helps people who watch it be like, oh, that looks so fun to do. I want to buy a house. I want to work with, this is Brandon, just for instance. Another example is pro tips or like Facebook Live vlogs or market reports or interviews with other experts or other brokers in different markets to give context. What are your shows and series going to look like in 2021? Now, again, our minimum is 3 posts a week total. So I'm picking, pick one show or series. And what this does is it gives you a piece of content that you can produce regardless of whether or not you even have listings. I know a lot of agents who are like, I wish I had more listings so I could do more posting on social. And I'm like, you're missing the point. The point is to build your brand on social. You're the product. People are hiring you. So let's let them see what you are, right? And I know a lot of agents who are like, I don't want to post pictures of my face and stuff and just me on my profile. And I'm like, it's your profile. I mean, you wear your face all day long anyways. I don't know what people expect to find when they go to your Facebook profile or your Instagram account. So I need to see more of you, more of your brand, because end of day, people are sizing you up to decide, hey, are you my agent? Are you the agent of choice? So make sure you got shows and series lined up. Deal data. So just listed, just sold, offer accepted, under contract. What we're calling for here is basically having templates ready to roll. What's your standard template for whenever you have a new listing, a closing, a whatever, so that you can publicize that because it's social proof and it does make an impact in your marketing. Listing videos, selfie style listing videos, welcome home posts. These are examples of what's happening in our ecosystem. The Vault. The Vault is basically a collection of basically things I post on an irregular basis. They're not like shows and series. They're not weekly or episodic. Every now and again, I do a blooper reel. Every now and again, I do a testimonial or a video testimonial or a giveaway, which by the way, there are rules and regs around giveaway, and make sure you know what RESPA is before you do that. Brand stuff, behind the scenes stuff, real me stuff. So what we're calling for here is imagine like you're a restaurant. If I go to a restaurant, they hand me a menu and they say, here's all the stuff that we cook, order off the menu. Well, what if when I went to your Instagram, your Facebook, your social online presence, what if I was sorting through all your content and I realized, oh, that's the HGTV tour. Oh, that's the Just Listed campaign. Oh, that's the blooper. And I saw that there was a menu, a repertoire, a set list of all the stuff that you produce content-wise. What if I saw that? How much easier would that make it for you if you knew, here's my repertoire of what I can post, and then I posted, I can schedule it out weekly or monthly or whatever floats my boat. But the point is you need a content plan. Our minimum standard is 3 posts a week. Before I go into this one, as far as that sponsored post that was called for up there, what I am suggesting to my coaching clients that I work with is, look, we know per later media, even if you dot every I, cross every T, and you optimize a post on Facebook, on Instagram, on LinkedIn, just flawlessly, if you do everything right, even so, maybe, according to later media, maybe 10% of your followers will actually see that post. Maybe, if you're lucky. So here's the question. If a tree falls in the forest and nobody's around to watch it fall, did it make a sound? And the answer is, well, it's hard to confirm or deny because nobody was around to watch it fall. And so here's the parallel. If you post on social and your past clients, your sphere of influence, people in your geo farm don't see the content you're sharing, did it make an impact in terms of positioning you as an agent of choice? And the answer is, well, how could it? They never saw it, which is why we pony up the dough. So what we're calling for here is you should be going behind every piece of content you produce, and maybe once a week, whatever your best post was of the week, throw some money behind it. If you're unfamiliar with Facebook ads, boost it. Just click the boost button and boost it if you're unfamiliar. If you are familiar with Facebook ads and you're like not at a basic level, I recommend you go inside your ads manager and you create a custom audience whereby you can upload your own database contacts to make sure that they're seeing your content. Now, You're going to want to be very wary of special ads category. You don't want to exclude anybody on accident or on purpose. So you may want to do that to multiple audiences. I'm talking to my advanced crew of Facebook marketers right now. But what my clients do is they find their best performing piece of organic content of the week and they drop money behind it. And they'll run it as multiple ads. They'll target it to their database contacts. They'll target it to their metro market area. And they'll go all over the place because they want to build that audience. The point of this is, look, put money behind it. If you want to grow your audience, if you want to make sure the audience that already follows you does see it, put money behind it. Otherwise, they may not. Next one on the list is Facebook groups. I need to kind of hustle. Facebook groups. I've got it down for weekly. And here's what it says. A past client VIP private Facebook group. And I said weekly because I'm going to talk about what content we post in a group weekly. But this is an example of, this is one of our coaching clients, Tim and Pon Macy. They're a husband and wife team in Texas. And this is a small VIP Facebook group. It's just for their past clients. And every week in the Facebook group, and this is true if this is personality, he posts a dad joke of the week. And they're all just unbelievably corny on purpose because he's being sarcastic and self-deprecating and all those things. But the engagement in this group is unbelievable. If you ask Tim where most of his deals are coming from, he's like, I'm getting referrals for the past clients. And I got to tell you, the channel, the means by which I'm staying in front of my past clients is this VIP Facebook group. So I think you should consider in 2021, especially in times of people needing more connectivity with other people, now's the perfect time for a VIP Facebook group for your past clients, and bring your sphere of influence in if you want also. If you have few past clients, team up with some other agents and be co-admins of the same Facebook group and spread the love around. But there's opportunity. He does a dad joke of the week. And then he also does like he gives stuff away. So this was his pumpkin spice. They had a little code that you could take to Starbucks that day. And he was buying pumpkin spice lattes for his past clients. And I was like, that's just clever. They love it. But this Facebook group gets tons of interactivity. I think starting a Facebook group in 2021 should be something you think about. But before you do it, like I'm showing you the kind of stuff Tim posts, and this group actually gets quite a bit of user generated content, meaning the actual members of the group, his past clients, are also posting in the group. But make sure you go locked and loaded with, here's the stuff I'm bringing to the group content wise. Otherwise, it's just another Facebook group that nobody ever posts in. And that's a dud. Next on the list is virtual open houses. You know, when COVID started happening back in March, people got really into virtual open houses and then they kind of stopped. And I don't know why. I don't know why. I think there's a huge upside to virtual open houses. And I especially think with not exactly knowing what's going to happen over the coming weeks with spike in cases and stuff, we should dust off our chops and get a better strategy around virtual open houses. Again, nobody knows. I don't know if we go back to a lockdown, the state of lockdown in terms of essential services. I don't know. But I'm just thinking like it wouldn't hurt if I was better prepared with virtual open houses. So here the frequency is weekly. I'm calling for a virtual open house weekly. I understand you may not be able to do one weekly, or you could do it more often than once a week. So this is kind of arbitrary. So it reads a social post, i.e. Facebook and Instagram, plus a boost that goes to a Zoom registration screen. Now there are a lot of different ways I've seen these virtual open houses happening. The most common of which is somebody goes to an open house by themselves and they go live on Facebook. And then a whole bunch of people watch and they have no way of following up with the people who watched. And they're trying to respond to comments and it's just kind of a clumsy, I mean, it's better than nothing, but it's kind of a clumsy effort. And I actually think about it as more of a lead generating opportunity. I used to teach open houses back when they existed. And when I taught open houses, I used to have a slide that says rule number 1, everybody must sign in. And the reason for that is because when I looked at the objective of an open house, from my vantage point, it was lead generation. When somebody comes into an open house, there is some measure of intent that brings them in the door. Even if they're a neighbor, they're thinking about selling or they're curious or whatever. It might just be a teensy weensy bit of intent, but there's some intent there. And so I want to have the ability to follow up and see what that intent is and make sure that I can position myself as a candidate for the job should they be looking to hire a listing agent or a selling agent or whatever. Anyways, I still think lead generation is the objective of an open house. And I certainly think my seller, if I'm the listing agent, wants me to have the ability to go on the offense, to follow up and try to figure out, is there a buyer there? Can we solicit a deal and bring an offer to the table for this listing? So it says a social post plus a boost that goes to a Zoom registration screen. Let me show you what I mean. So Here's an example of a fake one. This is my fake page. And it's got virtual open house. I screenshotted this back in September. Here's what it is, when it is, where it is. Here's a link to attend or register. I used the bit.ly link. Don't concern yourself with that. A bit.ly link is just a tracking link. If you click this, it's going to take you to a Zoom registration screen. I'll show you that in a second. I listed off some features, and then again, here's the same link. Once again, here's the same link. Once again, actually, that's a different link. They're all bit.ly links. I don't know why I did bit.ly links because I'm probably confusing you right now. Bit.ly is just I wanted to track how many clicks the link got. So forget that says bit.ly. Just pretend it says www.zoom.com or .us. And then I've got a boost. So at the same time I'm creating the post, I'm going to boost the post just to get it out to a wider net, a wider audience, like a 15-mile radius or even bigger. I want everybody to have the chance to attend this open house. So that addresses the social post plus a boost. So this part here is this screen here. Now, if they click the link to register and attend, it would open up a Zoom screen. And the Zoom screen, do I have a screenshot? I don't. I don't know if you know this, but if you pay for Zoom, you have the ability to create landing pages in Zoom that require registration. And if somebody submits their email address to say they want to attend the Zoom, then Zoom automatically sends them a calendar invite and reminds them that it's coming up, and they take care of all of it. So literally, like if I go into Zoom real quick, let's go to zoom.us, and I think I'm probably in the wrong account right now. Nope, I'm in the right account. If I go to webinars or meetings, either way, I could schedule a webinar or a meeting. Let's just do a meeting, which is what we're doing. And I could do schedule a meeting, and I can say when it's going to be that registration is required. If I check that box, then Zoom will start getting their email addresses and give me those emails. Those emails are leads. They're people I can follow up with. Depending upon the level of pay with Zoom, you can actually do more. You can actually do phone number, email. Are you working with an agent? You can add more questions depending upon your level of pay with Zoom. So my point here is we should be doing more virtual open houses. What's your strategy to make sure you're dialed in and ready for virtual open houses? Because that may be a really viable option for you going forward. And it is now, regardless of what future shutdowns may look like. All right, let's keep rolling. Google Display Network. This one's probably a little bit more technical. The next one after it is easy. Google Display Network, ongoing. It says brand-centric banner/display ads. Brand-centric banner/display ads. I wonder, have you ever been to a website? You're just surfing the web. You're on a website like thesaurus.com, because I know you probably frequent thesaurus.com. And you're there, and all of a sudden these little banner ads, they're wide and skinny, they're square, they're tall and skinny. They pop up, or sometimes they don't pop up. Sometimes they're even little videos. Have you ever seen those pop up on the screen before? Just imagine, it's all over the web, just random websites. Those are called Google Display Network ads. They're banner ads/display ads, and they're put there by Google. They're not put there by the website. Like thesaurus.com has nothing to do with these ads, nothing to do with them. They're put there by Google Display Network, which is one of Google's ad products. Now, this is Steve Aranda out in Altadena. I want to point out these are brand centric. This is a relationship business. This is a familiarity business. I want you to be top of mind. I want you to have the mind share, the agent of choice in your marketplace. So that means your face, your fonts, your colors, your logo, your name. I want people to just all the time, everywhere they go, I see you everywhere. You're that agent. Man, I see you everywhere. You're really crushing it. And these things, these banner ads, they are so cheap to do. I mean, like, for example, a postcard is 55 cents to get someone to see it. A stamp is 55 cents, plus the cost of making and printing. 55 cents. I mean, EDDM, it's a little bit less, every door direct. But Google Display Network, the cost of an impression here on average is about 1/3 of a penny. 1/3 of a penny. In fact, I think I even have some analytics. This is one of our coaches who did this. This was back in January. This is an old screenshot. The numbers have even improved. He was targeting at the time his little farm area. And in 30 days, he spent $371. He generated 201,000 impressions. He had 3.47 thousand, so 3,500 people click the banner ads and go to his website. His average cost per click was 11 cents, which means, by the way, if a stamp is 55 cents, and he was getting a click to his website for 11 cents, He had 5 people on his website per one stamp that he could have done with postcards. That's efficient. His average cost per 1,000 impressions was $1.84. So again, 55 cents a stamp for $1.84. He had 1,000 people see his ad. 1,000. That's insane. The numbers get even better. This is another guy. This was during COVID. Today's results is what Amar said. Today's results. He's in the Bay Area. He spent $4.39. His cost per click was 3 cents, meaning for 3 cents, people were going to his website with these things. And in one day, 22.3 thousand people in his local market saw these ads. And he had that many people going to the website. That's here's the week. He got 201,000 in a week, 4 cent cost per click, almost $64. Marketing, unless you go viral on YouTube, there is not a more affordable channel of marketing to position yourself than Google Display Network. That's nothing is as cheap. If you want to run these things, all you got to do, and remember, they're like banner ads. They look like this. They're on websites like this. If you want to run these, go to ads.google.com, choose display. Google also has their Google search ads, choose display. That's what you want. And there are lots of demos if you YouTube it. You can watch those there. If you go to my YouTube channel, you'll find videos where I've taught through step-by-step on some of these things, such as this. So youtube.com/Jason Pantana, you can get more info there. All right, let me keep rolling. Last one, and then we'll do some questions if there's anything to clarify with Nobu. SERPs. SERPs stand for Search Engine Results Pages. So Google results is what I mean here, Google results. Ongoing, branded keywords, web profiles, and review sites. So let me tell you what I really mean. When we think about SEO, which is search engine optimization, most people think about, oh, my website, I got to use meta tags and the right page descriptions and all that kind of stuff. And that's true. Like SEO is concerned with your website, whatever that domain is. But there's actually 2 types of SEO. There's what's called on-page SEO, search engine optimization, on-page SEO, and there's what's called off-page SEO. Off-page SEO basically is all the other websites. Like if I Google Nobu Hata, all the links I find that aren't his website, those are all off-page SEO. They're off his page, but they factor into the results. When somebody Googles your name, what shows up? What shows up? And so I go back to branded keywords, web profiles. Like what are the profiles? HomeLight, HomeSnap, Zillow, whatever. Review websites, Yelp, Realtor, Zillow, all those places. Here's a list just for the slides of social networks, business listings, agent directories. This is a pool of common websites that could rank when somebody Googles your name. What do they see when they Google your name? I want to specifically tell you to go hardcore on Google My Business. It's called Google My Business, getting reviews there, answering questions, doing Google posts. I did a video for the Tom Ferry Show on Tom Ferry's YouTube channel where I talked more about this, but Google My Business is a fabulous opportunity for you to be ready when somebody Googles your name. And then also, last little detail here is PPC your name. So what does that mean? PPC stands for pay-per-click. So if somebody Googles your name, what if you could control the first impression? Meaning, I buy ads, Google search ads, not Google Display Network. I was talking about Google Display Network before. Google search ads. I would still go to ads.google.com to run these, but I buy up my own name. So this is Sandra Pike. She's in Halifax, Nova Scotia. I would buy up Sandra Pike, Halifax, Sandra Pike, Halifax, Nova Scotia, Sandra Pike Realtor, Sandra Pike Realty, Sandra Pike Real Estate Agent, and all the different variations that somebody might search when they're looking for you so that you control that top first impression. It could go to a landing page of testimonials, case study, your value proposition, whatever it is, but control the first impression, because I assure you, when your past clients refer you, that referee, I don't think that's a word, but the person whom they referred, they're going to Google you. What are they going to find? Leads that you generate on Zillow or wherever you get them, PPC, whatever, they're going to Google you too. Are you ready? Are you Google ready for when people search your name? This is just a few ideas. Again, if you have more questions after you watch this training, connect with me on social, Instagram, Facebook, YouTube, LinkedIn, Twitter. I'd love to hear your thoughts and know if there's anything that I didn't cover today that you want me to cover in a future training. And it's been a real privilege talking with you guys. Let me turn my screen share off so that I can get back with Mr. Nobu Hata. Nobu, ball's in your court.
Yeah, man, that was awesome. I honestly, I love listening to you talk about marketing all day. And frankly, when I was at NAR, you calling up, making sure you were coaching the right, correct way, professional way to do it was super appreciated, and love that you're talking about that now. I get a lot of questions about marketing, right? When I was on the road and even now, budget wise, let's just talk about that, right? Do you have a recommended amount of how much people should be spending on this type of kind of paid, the paid marketing aspects of your marketing plan?
So I'll start from the top level. We typically teach in our coaching body, we typically teach 10% of your adjusted gross commission income goes to marketing as a whole. We typically try to have all of our operating expenses within 30%. And then Tom pretty much divides your adjusted gross. Adjusted gross means after you pay your broker, pretty much. Before taxes, after broker, a third. So a third goes to operating, a third goes to tax withholdings, and a third goes to you for you to live on. And of the third that goes to operating your business, within that, basically 1/3, which is the same as saying 10% roughly of all your adjusted gross goes to marketing. So if in 2020 you made 100 grand, you got 10 grand to budget for next year's business and your marketing. So that's the first thing I would say. The next thing I would say is, well, let's look at where the business came from, because I'm not going to go tell you to drop everything you're doing and throw it all on Facebook ads, for instance, if that is not even historically close to where you get your business from. You need to seize the opportunity that's the lowest hanging fruit. It's hard to give somebody an exact number on what to spend for paid advertising. I kind of think of it as like a steak. Like I can always put the steak back on the grill. I can't take it off and make it not medium well. So I start with spending the least amount possible. With Facebook, I'll just start with Facebook and then I'll talk about Google. With Facebook, I would say 80% of Facebook for me is nurturing, content, brand. 20% is maybe lead gen. Most of my clients, I've stopped most of their Facebook lead gen this year because Google PPC has been so cheap. We've reallocated the money to generate the leads on Google search and then retarget them on Facebook with our branded content. That shouldn't take a ton of money. And I know I'm not really answering your question. I'm probably making people mad, but I would be like, if I had $1,000 and let's just pretend I'm buying Zillow and I'm getting my leads at $300 a lead, I'm just to do the analysis. Well, I'm getting $300 a lead on Zillow. I've seen leads for as low as $3 a lead on PPC. It may take me longer to convert them and it may be more of a chase, but I would just look through what's worked in the past and then dial it up accordingly. Plus, Google and Facebook give you estimated projections on every ad you run. So you should be able to figure out, well, how many leads do I want or need in order to convert at a certain ratio to get a certain number of deals and then work backwards to the money. Is that a lousy? I could just say $300 a month, but I don't think like that.
But analysis is great. And frankly, throwing money away hand over fist is one of the reasons why this business is in the state that it's in, right? I mean, people throwing their money away on shiny objects just doesn't work. Let's talk about when then, right? And I love the fact that you talk about Google. In years past, like when we first met, we were talking about the 0 moment of truth that Google was talking about, right? Which is still applicable today.
I talked about it this past year quite a bit.
Yeah. But so beyond that though, like real estate search traditionally started though, like right around this time, you throw out the last couple of years with COVID and craziness, right? But real estate search really starts now going into next year.
Absolutely.
Can you talk about like when folks should start this whole idea about when they should doing it? Because, Google in my mind speaks the truth. It reflects the behavior that is happening right now in real time. And it strikes me as one of the easiest platforms. If you figure out everything else you're talking about, content, right? Strategy, the touchy-feeliness, humanizing your brand, figuring out what your brand actually means and running with it. Is that still applicable even today in this crazy market?
Yeah, I would say yes. And I have a couple of thoughts to all that. So I was with Tom Ferry and he texted not too long ago a bunch of CEOs and head honchos in the industry. And he was like, hey, who's the agent of the future in the next 3 to 5 years? That was the question. And he got all their responses back and they were very detailed responses. And this is people like 1000 Watt and people really like some awesome people weighing in on their perspective. And he read me every answer. There's like 20 of them. And in every person's answer, I heard one of two things about the agent of the future. They talked about teams quite a bit. The idea of scaling your business alone isn't really, you need to get people to help you do what you do, kind of a thing. That was one modal answer. But the other one was the agent of the future has a brand. And I always teach, what is your brand? Well, your brand is your face, your voice, your reputation, your mind, your heart, what you care about. It's you. You're the product. You're on the shelf. They're looking at you. So I would say absolutely nurturing, branding, content matters more now than ever, not just for people who don't know you, but when I talk to my own clients, my coaching clients, and it's like, hey, what's your number one source of business? And they say referrals from my past clients. That's common. And I say, and what was your number one outlet or tool that you used to get referrals from past clients? And they would go, they saw my stuff on Facebook and Instagram. So therein lies the truth about social media marketing. It's just another channel to stay in front of your sphere. As far as Google goes, there's the organic side of Google, which is what I talked about at the end with search engine results pages. And then there's paid ads. I would divide my paid ads into a couple of different buckets. So there's home search, home seller related paid ads. So like somebody's buying up keywords like Zillow Nashville, homes for sale in Nashville. I generally don't recommend doing those alone. I would generally outsource that to a company like Boomtown or Ylopo or Agent Image or Real Geeks or somebody like that. They give you the website and they can run your consumer facing ads. The consumer's looking for the home or whatever. In other words, you're not really what they're searching for. The other bucket is ads when they are searching for an agent, best agent in blank, those types of ads. Those are ones that I would invest in because I think with relo and uncertainty and not knowing people, I'd be buying ads right now on Google to make sure that if somebody says top agent in Nebraska, Lincoln, Nebraska, whatever it is, I know you guys are all in Colorado, sorry, in Denver, Colorado Springs, whatever, I would be ranking on that search. But as far as like home search goes, I would outsource that to a website company to try to generate a bunch of leads. And then I would take your energy and effort and focus on the follow-up and the nurture after you get the lead. Because that's the epitaph. That's where it really starts is once I've got the lead, I know that Google leads are probably a 10 to 14 month window before they convert. I know Facebook leads are 18 to 24 months before they convert. So what am I going to do in that span of time to position myself as the agent of choice? Because the other thing, I know I'm long-winded here, but if you walk into a clothing store and the sales clerk says to you, hey, welcome in, what brings you in today? And they say, oh, just browsing. Nobody comes into that clothing store because they want to see the salesperson. They went into the clothing store to look for clothes. And so if you're generating leads off of Zillow, off of a PPC IDX website, and they're searching for homes, they don't care a lick about you. They're just searching for homes, which means whatever that window of conversion is, if it's Facebook, you have 2 years. You have 2 years to make them fall in love with you until they're ready to transact and buy or sell through you. Does that make sense, Nobu?
Yeah, totally. This even goes beyond the when. It talks about the infrastructure. We got to talk about that content. We got to talk about lead nurturing, lead curation, and earning business more than anything starting now. Yeah.
Well, if you just honestly, it's like put the people in play. Like every agent faces 3 chasms, and in this order. I have no leads. I need a bridge to cross that. I'm not booking appointments. I need a bridge to cross that. I'm not closing deals. I need a bridge to cross that. Get the leads. And if you've got the leads, stop trying to get more leads and move on to conversion. What is conversion? In this world, conversion is more content, more trust, build the relationship. That's conversion.
Awesome. Perfect segue to Shay. Hopefully she's listening and turning on her. Oh, there she is.
Hi, Shay. Nobu, thank you, man. This is always anything for you, man. Appreciate you guys. Shay, good to see you.
Thank you. Appreciate it, Jason.
Bye.
All right. And if y'all think that it is weird to have your wife on during a webinar, it absolutely is. But I have a budget, and Jason busted it, and I got to get as many of the free people as I can. Jason, Shay is one of them. Honey, thank you for sharing your expertise with us. You've been hearing a lot about the buyer seller profile. You get it every year when you're a realtor and I was working at NAR. The marketing planning, we just got a deluge of information there. Wrap it all up. You are a pragmatic realtor. You're a team leader. You're a top producer within the span of 4 or 5 years. You're now operating your business out of Denver in Chicago. which is surreal. Thank you, COVID, in some ways for that. But can you wrap this up in a bow for us and talk about business planning with everything that we've learned today?
Yeah, absolutely. So, I think we got a lot of great data, from NAR, from Jessica, that you really need to kind of drill down on and figure out how do you take that data then and put it into a business plan to put that data into action. Then from Jason, we got a lot of great marketing ideas, right? So now it's, I talk to, my clients and my coaching clients, and they always have all these great ideas of things that they're going to do, but people don't actually sit down and do it. So now is the point of let's sit down, make that business plan for 2021 so you actually execute the things that you just learned about. So how do we do that? That's what I'm going to talk to you about and show you today. So business planning for 2021, because really you need to be doing that now. Typically we start our business planning for 2021 in October. That's when we do all of our business planning as a team. So it's myself, I have another team lead who handles listings, and then I have 2 buyer agents on my team and 4 assistants. So all of our fall is spent planning for the next year, filling our pipeline with people, reaching out to our sellers if they're going to sell over the winter, getting their photographs done now so that we can really fill that pipeline for the next year, and take a hard look at our business and figure out what was working, what wasn't working, and go into it with a strategy. Because I think one of the things that we have a challenge with as realtors is we fly by the seat of our pants and we don't have a strategic business plan. And that has to change. You really have to treat your business like a business. So go through all of 2020 and look at what worked and what didn't work. And were you able to pivot with the pandemic? And what did you learn from that? What were those lessons? And then put that into 2021. What we're planning for 2021 is that the pandemic is really going to affect how we do business in terms of Zoom, listing presentations, et cetera, for probably the first half of 2021. Our hope is that maybe by summertime, we can start to get back to doing in-person events and things like that. So you almost have to have a current pandemic business plan and then a post-pandemic business plan and be able to shift those accordingly. Also, I think it's really important you look at now, what can you do in your downtime? We're heading into a surge. We're already in the surge here in the Denver metro area. And so business is probably going to slow down a little bit. You're going to have some more downtime. So this is the time to really hunker down and focus on your business. Put your systems into place, which we're going to talk about, so that you can be more efficient when business gets busier again in a couple of months. And what can you do if we're shut down? How can you still connect with your clients if we are deemed non-essential, if there is a shutdown and you can't be doing showings? Because even then you should still be working on your business. And so let's talk about how to do that. The very first thing you have to do is evaluate your finances. I talk to a lot of top producing realtors. They make a ton of money, but they spend it all and they have nothing to put in their pocket at the end of the day. As realtors, we are really good at spending our money. We are not so good at controlling our expenses and saving our money. So that's the very first thing you have to do is drill down on your data. Look at all of these things I've put in here in terms of what's your conversion rate? What are you spending money on for lead generation? What is actually working? What is your days on market compared to last year? Is it better? Is it worse? Why? Is that something you were doing differently, or was that just a cause from the market and from COVID? What was your total gross income? What was your net income? I really don't care about people's gross incomes. I care about their net income. So you can feed your family, put a roof over your head. How did that compare to last year? How can you cut down those expenses? Jason said, 30%. My business, I try to have it run between 20 and no more than 25%. So where can you cut those expenses? Are you doing a monthly profit and loss statement so that you're tracking those expenses? I talk to a lot of my coaching clients and they don't look at their profit and loss statement until December for the whole year. By then it's too late. So you need to be doing that on a monthly basis. So, take stock of all of these parts of your business and really sit and look at the data. We have a tendency as realtors to avoid the stuff we don't want to look at. And that's the stuff we need to focus on and figure out how we can change. Evaluate your strengths and your weaknesses as a realtor. I think a lot of people think that they should be picking up the phone and cold calling every day and door knocking and working expireds. If you aren't good at those, you're not going to do them. And it's going to come across as awkward. It's going to come across as weird, and you're not going to be successful at it. So I'm a firm believer in figuring out what your strengths are, figuring out what your weaknesses are, and outsourcing your weaknesses to somebody else. You know, I am an introvert, but I like one-on-one relationships with my clients. So I love to text my clients, see how they're doing, drop off gifts, you know, send them things in the mail. I love giving them hugs that way. But if I have to go to a cocktail party, I would rather stay home in my pajamas and hide. Like, that has no interest for me. So figure out what your strengths are, and then how can you put those into your business, and how can you outsource the things that you are not good at. From there, figure out what your goals are. So every fall, we figure out what is our goal for next year. Do we want to focus on buyers or sellers? So last year, we could see in Chicago, the market was starting to take a dip. We focused on buyers, whereas the previous years we had focused on sellers. Do you want more work-life balance? Do you want more money? You know, look at what your goals are, and then how are you going to accomplish those? Go ask your brokerage for a raise. You know, if you're on a commission split, go ask them for more money. I asked my broker every 6 months for a higher commission split until I got to a point where they just couldn't give me any more money. Then I started asking for marketing dollars and paying for my tech. You know, so look at how can you make more money? Look at what is working for your business and what isn't, and be really honest about that with yourself. If you have an assistant, talk to that person. If you have a team, talk to those people. You really have to take an honest look at your business in order to position it better for 2021. If you want more sellers, how are you going to do that? You know, I would go to top agents in my market when I was trying to focus on getting sellers and say, hey, look, can I co-list for you? Just give me 5% of the commission and I will do all of the work, because I just wanted to learn how listings worked. I wanted to get my name on those co-listings so that when I went to listing presentations, I could say, yes, I've sold these properties in your neighborhood. You know, so see if there's busy agents in your marketplace, if you're trying to break into buyers or sellers, that you can help for a nominal percentage of that commission to start to learn and get those deals underneath your belt. And then really look at your lead generation. Where are your clients coming from, and how much money are you spending to get those clients? You know, I think a lot of us spend a ton of money on, you know, buying Zillow leads, buying realtor.com leads, et cetera. Are you getting the ROI on those? Because if you talk to any top agent, most of our clients come from our sphere and referrals, either from past clients, friends, colleagues, other realtors, right? So if that's where the majority of your clients are coming from, that's where you need to spend your money. We have a tendency to always want to go out and get new clients, and we don't spend our time and attention on our past clients. That was the number one thing that I did in my business, was focus on my past clients. And that has allowed me to grow faster than anything else. So what are you spending money on that isn't bringing in clients? Take a hard look at that and start to get rid of those and shift that money to something else. What opportunities are you missing? Are you reaching out to divorce attorneys? That is the number one thing my team is working on right now, because I think there's going to be a ton of divorces in the next year from COVID, and I'm already seeing it in my own business. I get a ton of referrals from financial planners, CPAs, you know, so do you have relationships with those people, and are you reaching out to them regularly? Are you sending pizza to their office to stay top of mind with them so that you can get that referral business? You know, I get a ton of business from neighborhood Facebook groups, you know, so I'm on some moms groups in the Chicago area. Any place that people on Facebook are asking for referrals, they will eventually ask for a realtor referral. So be part of those groups. Invite your clients to be part of those groups. So when somebody asks for a realtor referral, have your clients refer you instead of you. Typically 35 realtors jump in and say, oh, use me. But they're going to listen to the other moms who refer you more than they are you saying, use me. You know, look at how you can use Facebook in an interesting way. There's a cool page I've been following lately called Denver Local, which is a couple of local realtors here in Denver. And they've been highlighting local businesses. As somebody who just moved here, I don't know any businesses, I don't know any place to go. Those are the kinds of things that I'm looking for. And especially in the Denver market, where you have tons of people moving from out of state, start to highlight things that people can do during COVID that are safe. I'm spending tons of time online looking for activities I can take my son to that are outside, socially distanced. You know, as a realtor, start talking to your clients about those kinds of things. You know, once a week, push an email out about all the cool things going on that are safe that they can do. That's what I'm looking for as somebody who just moved here. and know that 2 out of 3 people are going to research you extensively. So as Jason said, Google your business, Google your name, see what comes up. I would go a step further, check all of your reviews regularly, at least once a year. See that, what people are saying about you, respond to those reviews. Make sure you don't have a bad review that's a fake review that you need to deal with. Make sure you own your URL and that you have it directed somewhere so somebody else can't buy it. So look and see what people find when they're looking for you online and how you can expand your lead generation into other categories that you aren't currently using. So this was an example from a Facebook group where a mom posted for looking for a realtor, and I messaged all of my clients who were in that group and said, hey, so-and-so is looking for a realtor. Can you go on and recommend me? They did. And I was able to get a $1.2 million listing from that didn't cost me anything. So look for Facebook groups like that in your area. If they don't exist, start one. They're really great. Nextdoor is very active here. Look at doing something like that. And then look at your efficiency. What is your time worth on an hourly basis? I sat down last night, I got in bed last night and I couldn't stop thinking about this. So I had my calculator out and I figured out that if I work, I work generally about 40 hours a week. I make $208.33 per hour based on my net income from last year. Okay. So if that's how much I make on a per hour basis, what should I be outsourcing? What should you be outsourcing? Does it make sense for you to do something that you could pay an assistant $15 an hour for so that you could spend your time on lead generation, on contract negotiations, inspection negotiations, things that you cannot outsource? Do you need an assistant? That's the biggest mistake I see a lot of busy realtors making, is they're trying to do everything for themselves and they're so busy working in their business that they don't have a chance to step back and work on their business. So maybe you need a part-time assistant. When I first got my first assistant, she worked 10 hours a week. I shared her with 3 other people in the office so we could give her 40 hours a week, even though none of us could commit to paying her that much. As I got busier, she moved to 15, then 20 hours and so on, or do you need to have a team, right? Really take a hard look at what you're doing and if it makes sense for you to be doing those tasks. And where are you wasting time? I see so many realtors on Facebook posting in realtor groups. Don't talk to other realtors on Facebook. Talk to your clients. Focus on your clients. Other realtors, unless they're out of state, are not going to send you leads. So put all of your clients in a friend list on Facebook. Check it each day and see what they're talking about and comment on their stuff. Do social media posts, but other than that, get off of Facebook and try to get belly to belly with your clients. Even if you can't do that via COVID, call them and say, hey, how are you doing? I know this year is tough. Can I help you with anything? Do you need recommendations for anything? Especially your clients who are moving here. I can tell you, as somebody who moved here a couple months ago, just finding a pediatrician and a dentist and all of these kinds of things is really hard. I would so love it if my realtor reached out and said, hey, can I help you with those things? That would make a big difference to me. So you should be reaching out to your clients regularly, not wasting your time on Facebook and other tools like that. And then look at how else you can be efficient. How can you automate your buyer presentations? One of the things that we do, and you can check out my website, buyselllovechicago.com, is we have a ready to buy form. It's a Google form. So as soon as a buyer reaches out to me and wants to work with us, I respond immediately. I send them a link to that form. I ask them to fill it out, and then we'll set up a time to Zoom with them. That saves me hours of time, because now, when that buyer typically calls, it may not be a good time for me to talk to them, right? I might be in the middle of something with my family or with a client, and I don't have the time to talk to them for an hour and take down how many bedrooms they want, bathrooms, etc. So instead, I can put it to voicemail, see their voicemail, text them back and say, hey, I'm in the middle of something. I really do want to talk to you. Can you fill out this survey for me? And then we'll set up a time to talk or Zoom. So they're getting serviced immediately. They can spend a half an hour filling out that form. I can spend 5 minutes looking at it before we set up a time to Zoom. And now I have saved myself probably an hour of a phone conversation, right? You can do the exact same thing on the sell side. So be sure to check those out on my website, buyselllovechicago.com, under our buyer and our seller section. Google Forms are free, so they're very easy for you to use. If you're not tech savvy, it's like using a Microsoft Word document. And I highly recommend having a Zoom account. You want to be getting as much FaceTime as you can with your clients right now, building that trust, building that relationship when you can't see them as much in person. So do that initial buyer consultation with them via Zoom. Do contract negotiations with them via Zoom. Do inspection negotiations. Get as much FaceTime as you can with them. And then look at how quickly you're responding to clients. Nobu would know the statistic, but I think it's like clients expect you to respond within 45 seconds or something these days. It's ridiculous, right? So how can you make that more efficient? You know, one of the things I do is in my email, I have a template for that ready to buy and sell survey. So all I have to do is copy and paste it and send it to them. You can do the same thing on your phone. You can put shortcuts on here. So I type in SEL and I have an automatic text that goes out to them with that seller link and form. So look at how you can be more efficient with your time. How can you automate what you're doing? Look at, you know, 1 in 20 home buyers buy a home without seeing it. So how can you make that process easier for them? Nobu and I bought our house here without seeing it before he flew out for the inspection. You know, so having really good tech, having the ability for the realtor to zoom us through that property, having floor plans, having 3D Matterport tours. I can tell you all, having bought a house here, most of you do not have any of that stuff. And it was so frustrating for us to try to be looking to buy a home and there's no floor plans online. There's no 3D Matterport tour, right? So if 5% of people are buying a home without seeing it, how can you make that process easier for them and for you? And how can you make the selling or buying process less stressful for your clients? Ask them that question. You know, Jason and Jessica mentioned it's really hard to find contractors right now. So make sure you have good context for your people so that when they get here and they buy a new property, do you have somebody who can unpack them? Do you have a handyman who can come in and set stuff up for them? Do you have a cleaner you can recommend? You know, think of yourself as a full service concierge, not just a realtor, and look at how can you make that transaction easier for them before, during, and after the transaction, and ask them, what are they stressed about? And then take that off of their shoulders and take it on for yourself. You know, really look at, are you getting reviews? I love realsatisfied.com. It's $99 a year. It's very simple. Again, it automates the review process. I put in a client's name, whether they were a buyer or seller, their email address. It sends them a survey. They can fill it out. They can leave me a testimonial. With the click of a button, I can post it on Facebook. I can post it on realtor.com. I can post it on Twitter. Then I copy and paste it. I send it back to them through realsatisfied.com, which will then send them a $10 gift card for Starbucks to say thank you. I ask them to copy and paste that and put it on Zillow and Yelp. And so with basically 3 clicks of a button, I've gotten reviews now all over the internet. Because again, 2 out of 3 people are going to research you extensively. So make sure you are getting those reviews. Okay, then evaluate your tech. What are you spending money on? As realtors, we tend to spend money on everything and then never actually use it. So look at what you're spending money on. Are you using it on at least a weekly basis? Are you getting your ROI on it? And if not, get rid of it. In my opinion, you should have a great CRM that can automate tasks for you. I use RealVolve. I love it. I'm able to put in, say, you know, when we go under contract, an inspection date, it will send a reminder out to my clients the day before with everything they need to know about the inspection. It will send a reminder to the listing agent that we have the inspection. I'm able to do the same thing when earnest money comes in, upload that copy of that check. It sends it out to everybody involved in the party. So how can you, through your CRM, automate tasks to take them off of your plate to make you more efficient? I firmly believe everybody should have their own website where you can post helpful content like to your clients. That's what Jason was talking about. It's all about content curation now and good educational content. That should be posted on your website in a hub and spoke approach so that all of your marketing is pushing people back to your website and they have a reason to stay on there and read things and get informed. You can't compete with Zillow on IDX, right? Don't try. Where you can compete is local knowledge, local content about how the real estate market works here in Denver. Talk about average days on market. Talk about, you know, the different areas for people who are moving out. Obviously, you know, be very careful of, you know, for housing and steering and things like that, but give people educational content. I didn't know when we moved here that most houses had sprinkler systems. We don't have those in Illinois. Talk about that. Talk about what the upkeep is for that. Educate your clients, okay? From there, what tech do your clients need? You know, I love Real Scout. It replaces our MLS. It's a much easier interface for our clients to use when they're searching for properties. We can communicate online back and forth. So that's really the big tech that my team implemented in 2020, was moving to Real Scout instead of having our clients on the MLS. So where are your tech weaknesses, and what tech do you actually need that you're going to use to fill those in? And then how are you advertising to your sphere? Jason talked about Google Display. I love that. You should definitely be doing that. I also love AdWorks, where you can do sphere advertising. So you can put your clients' emails in there wherever they're going for content, whether it's Facebook, CNN, MSNBC, Fox News, Wall Street Journal, etc. Your custom ad is going to pop up so that you're staying top of mind with that. So start spending money on that kind of tech. And then make sure, as I talked about, you're doing floor plans, 3D Matterport tours, drone photos, especially here in Denver, where so many people are moving from out of town. That stuff is really important. Nobu bought me this great DJI Osmo Pocket camera. It's a camera on a stabilizer. We're using it now in Chicago to do a walkthrough video, about a 20-minute video of every listing that we have, where we open the fridge, we show the inside of the fridge, we show if there's a garbage disposal. It's like you're there in person doing a showing for people who can't be there. Especially as we head into this lockdown potentially, you should be doing those on all of your properties so that you have them. You can post them on social media. You can send them out to the buyers when they request a showing and ask them to review that before they come to the property in person, to protect your clients from COVID. So you really look at how you're using tech and bring it up a notch, because I was disappointed when we were looking for a house here at kind of the lack of technology I saw in most of the listings. And then how are you staying in contact with your prospective clients for at least 2 years? So once you meet somebody, if they're not ready to buy now, you need to be staying in contact with them at least monthly with targeted educational content that helps them as they prepare to buy a home. So talk to them about ways to increase their credit score. When is there a best time to buy a home in Denver, when they're going to get the best deal? Talk to them about all of these things and educate them so you are front and center when they're actually ready to buy a property. And then evaluate your post-transaction follow-up. How are you staying in contact with your closed clients? And remember, Jessica said, on average, people are looking to stay in their home for 10 years. So they don't need you 6 months after the transaction, potentially, in terms of buying or selling again. They need you 10 years later. So you need to have an extensive post-transaction follow-up program for at least 10 years, where you are reaching out to them at least monthly with educational content that they need to know. So it can be things like maintenance reminders for their homes. You can be the newsletters that Jason was talking about. It should be some events. I think you should be doing at least 2 events per year. Pop-by gifts, quarterly texts and phone calls. As Jason talked about, lots of social media. Be that go-to resource for them. Have a resource page on your website where you put down all of your favorite painters, electricians, but let them know they can reach out to you if they need a recommendation for a dentist or a pediatrician. Become their go-to resource for everything. And remember, only 31% of people who are buying homes, according to Jessica, are first-time home buyers. So that means your past clients are even more important than ever, because they're the ones most likely to buy again. So send out some maintenance graphics in terms of what they should be doing, especially from people who aren't from here. That freaky day we had in September where it got so cold, we didn't know we needed to winterize our sprinkler system, right? So think about things that you may take for granted that people who are moving here from out of town just don't know, because they don't have these things where they're coming from. And make sure you're texting those clients and saying, hey, I know you just moved here from California. You may not know you have to do this. I'm happy to help you walk through it if you don't know. Be that resource for them. Look at doing client appreciation events. These are some of the events that we've done this past year, or that we regularly do. You should be doing at least 2 to 4 events a year, in my opinion, to get belly to belly with people. Obviously, during COVID, that's hard. One of the biggest things we've done this year were socially distanced porch photos. Our clients loved it. So you can still do events during COVID. You just have to be creative about it. You can still do pop buys. We dropped off Girl Scout cookies on everybody's doorstep in the spring. You can drop off, little poinsettias or whatever it may be, but put at least a couple of pop buys in your business plan for 2021 as well. And then evaluate your gift program. Are you giving gifts to your clients? I'm a big fan of you should be. So if you're not, look at how you should be doing that. We always give a small gift after the first meeting with a new client, whether it's in person or online. We send them Sherry's berries. We do Tiffany's glasses after the inspection ends. We do a closing gift. We do Meal for the Move, where we drop off pizza and soda on their moving day. So put together a systematized gift program for your clients and send gifts for milestones. If they have a baby, send them a baby onesie from your team. If they got a dog, send them a poop bag dog holder that's branded. Send them a Christmas ornament for the holidays with a picture of their home on it. So really think about how can you have an extensive gift program, because in my opinion, it's more important to spend money on your past clients than it is to try to spend money online to lead generate. You're going to get more of your return from those past clients. And then take everything you want to do and break it down into a weekly calendar. So figure out, are you going to contact 10 past clients this week, whether it's email, text, etc. As Jason said, post on social at least 3 times a week. I check in with every client we're actively working with or under contract every Monday via text, and every Friday to see if they need anything. Shoot a video once a week. So break down what you're going to do into a weekly calendar so that you can stick with it, and then put it into a monthly calendar. So these were just some suggestions I had for people about what they could do monthly, so they're reaching out to their whole sphere and staying on task. And then in addition to that, looking at your profit and loss statement every single month. So Nobu is going to send out a copy of my actually monthly calendar for 2021 with all of my business planning, mailings in it, events, client gifts, all those kinds of things. So you guys can kind of use that as a template going forward. So this is the time you need to sit down, figure out everything you're going to do for 2021 based on what worked and what didn't work for 2020, what your goals are for 2021, and then hold yourself accountable to that weekly calendar and that monthly calendar.
That was an abrupt thank you. Just say thank you, honey.
Thank you.
All right. Okay. Hey, stop sharing your screen real quick. Okay. So we talked a little bit about it with Jason, right? What would you say is the biggest obstacle that agents have when it comes to planning? It's beyond even lack of planning. I think they plan while literally the house is on fire, kind of thing. You and I talked when you first got in this business, start next year, the next year's business in the fall of the previous year. Does that still count with you, even with market being crazy, lack of inventory and whatnot? If not, what do you think is the biggest point of failure for agents in general?
Yeah. So I think it's 2 things. One, I think it is a lack of planning. So we do all of our business planning in the fall for all of next year. And so we have that entire calendar for the whole year showing exactly what we do. And so obviously, this past year we had to pivot. So, come March, we looked at our calendar and went, we can't do a lot of these things that we were planning to do for the rest of 2020 because of the pandemic. And so we pivoted and figured out what could we fill that calendar in so that we were still contacting and connecting with our clients regularly. So, instead of doing, photos with Santa, which is what we would have done in December of this year, we did socially distanced porch photos. Instead of renting out a movie theater in December, which we usually do and bring all of our clients in, we're doing letters to Santa in December, right? So you have to have your business plan, but with the pandemic, you have to be willing to pivot a little bit. And then I think really what happens is people get so in the weeds of their business and in the day-to-day grind of their business that they don't have the time to put these, these events, these gifts, all of these things into place because they're so bogged down into the day-to-day details. So I think that's why it's really important to look at, go through a day for a whole week and write down everything that you did, and then look at that and figure out, was that a productive use of your time? Was there a way to automate that, which is how we figured out how to do the ready to buy and ready to sell surveys? Because I was like, I'm wasting a lot of time on these phone conversations, right? And that's also how we came up with all of our workflows in RealVolve to automate all that communication to clients during the transaction, because I found myself having the same conversation over and over again. And if you're having that same conversation more than once, there is a better way to do it. Dump your brain on your website. So when somebody says to you, hey, who are your recommended insurance providers? You can say, I'm going to send you a link to that. Here you go. Right. And then if you've done all that and you've become more efficient, look at, is it time to outsource? Is it time to hire a part-time assistant for 10 hours a week? if you're spending, you know, $150 a month on a part-time assistant for them to plan an event, if you get one client from that event, that more than pays for that person. So if that is not a strength of yours and you're not going to do it, outsource it to somebody else who can do your social media. You know, hire a college kid, right? You know, hire somebody to plan your events. Look, that's why it's really important to look at your strengths and your weaknesses and outsource those weaknesses.
So regardless of whether or not you're a solo agent or you're a team, what, you know, put your solo agent hat back on real quick, which is that's an overwhelming majority of realtors out there. What are you dumping this year in your that you did in your plan last year or the last couple of years, and how are you keeping track of ROI?
Yeah. So I think ROI can be hard, you know, because it's hard to measure a pot buy gift and how is that giving you ROI? And it's hard to measure an event. Like, are you getting any ROI from that? You know, events we're able to measure a little bit more because whenever we do an event, we always ask our clients to bring a friend with them. And so we're able to see if that friend eventually turns into a client. So that's been a good lead generation tactic for us, you know, but it's not like pay-per-click where you can see how many clients you actually got from that, right? It's a much more long-term strategy. So I think you have to look at, you know, do the vast majority of your clients come from referrals from your past clients? You know, if so, then that ROI you're spending to reach out to them, you know, is worth it, in my opinion. You know, so that's what I would answer for that. As far as like what, you know, what we're taking off, like, you know, I signed up for BombBomb. I think it's a great tool, but I never ended up using it this past year. So I spent $400 on something I didn't use. So we're going to get rid of that for next year, and we'll reevaluate and see if it makes a, you know, sense to bring back into our business. So, you know, sometimes there are great tools out there and you're just not using them. So stop paying for them. You know, Zoom for the $15 a month, that's the best thing I spent money on this year is Zoom. And, you know, being able to now do contract negotiations, inspection negotiations, you know, listing presentations, new buyer consultations. You know, I'm on Zoom half the day, every day, and I feel like I'm still getting that belly to belly relationship with my clients, you know, so that's going to stay. So it really, I think, is going through each tool that you're using and figuring out, are you using it? You know, and is it giving you the outcome you want?
Awesome. Honey, thank you. I'll make dinner tonight.
My pleasure.
And thank you, DMAR members. This is going to be the first of many real estate mastery sessions that we'll be bringing to you guys over the course of the next couple of years, as we bring people like Shay and Jason and Jess, not only real estate people, but real estate people who've been in your shoes or are still in your shoes, in the trenches, doing what you do every day, rather than you having to spend $1,000, $5,000, go to the other side of the country, listen to somebody who's never sold real estate tell you how to sell real estate. Am I right, Shay? That's lame.
That's the biggest pet peeve is taking advice from people who've never sold real estate.
Thank you very much for your time, guys. Thank you, Shay, Jason, if you're out there, Jessica Lautz, Mike Pantanakis, Helen Randall from Chase, and thank you, DMAR, for tuning in. Appreciate your time. We'll see you guys later.